I am the chosen one.
What's up, guys? Your boy Benny. So recently in a Newsmax interview, an exclusive sit down with somebody that we love a lot, Greg Kelly, Donald Trump was asked, do you believe you have the hand of God on you? Do you believe that the hand of God is protecting you? Because everything that the devil and evil forces and the gates of hell could possibly throw at a single man is being thrown at you right now. And you seem to be getting stronger. It was a powerful moment. And I think it says a lot about Trump. Check this out.
The cases against you in different ways are disintegrating. You see what's going on with Fannie, and Jack Smith keeps on losing on these emotions. Yeah. These cases were designed to destroy you.
Yes.
And they've helped you. And some of us actually, we see, I know my audience and me too, we see that you're protected, maybe even by the hand of God. Has that ever crossed your mind? I mean, the idea that these indictments could have been a benefit to you politically, it's almost it was inconceivable a year ago. Now look at where you are.
Well, I've watched people over the years, politicians get indicted, and the first thing they do is go to the microphone and say, I'll be leaving office now, and I will fight for my name and my reputation, and I'll be going back home to my family. You know, they leave for a lot of different reasons, but nobody's ever been hit like me. And there's never been anything like this. Look, my numbers are highest. Nobody's ever seen numbers like this. I believe that if this didn't happen, perhaps they miscalculated, and perhaps they haven't. Because don't forget, it's not over yet. But there is some kind of a protective force, because you look at what I've been hit with. These are horrible people. These are corrupt. You know, Jack Smith, I call him deranged Jack Smith. This guy is out to murder. Here's Joe Biden with 50 times the number of documents, classified stuff. He took it all for a 50-year period. And don't forget, they can blame his mental health. And I agree with them on his mental health. His mental health is terrible. But they can blame his mental health. But 20 years ago and 10 years ago and 30 years ago and 40 and 50 years ago, he didn't have, let's say, a mental health problem like they talk about today. So they release him from liability. And you're talking about many, many times the documents over many years. And he didn't have the Presidential Records Act. He didn't have it, which totally protects me, in my opinion, totally protects me. You know, I was dealing with them. We were dealing fine. We weren't. And then all of a sudden they raided this house. They raided Mar-a-Lago. These are corrupt people. But they release Biden. What Biden did, he wasn't protected by the presidential because he wasn't president. He took him when he was a senator. Dick Durbin got up and said, if he did that, that's a real bad thing. That's as bad as it gets. Dick Durbin's on their side. And I just remember when he heard about that, he took a lot of classified documents as a senator. Dick Durbin couldn't believe it. So when you look at it, there's something going on, because they're going after me viciously. Then all of a sudden it comes out that Biden took 10 times the number of documents that I did. And I took them very legally, and I wasn't hiding them. We had boxes on the front of and a lot of those boxes had clothing, and we're moving out, okay? Unfortunately, we're moving out of the White House. And because we're moving out of the White House, our country's going to hell. But we weren't hiding anything. He was. And then you see him with his Corvette. Nobody ever mentions the one, though, that's the worst, is he had him in Chinatown. And those were boxes that were used. If you take a look at those boxes there was a lot of activity in those boxes. They show pictures of them. These were boxes that were used. In Mar-a-Lago, we had the Secret Service. We had all sorts of security. We had everything. And what he did was far more egregious. I mean, what I did, I had protection. I had the right to do it, in my opinion, and in my lawyer's opinion and everything else. But when you see that the way they released him, and they say, we're going to release him, it was egregious what he did. But by the way, they released Hillary Clinton. She hammered her phones. She used all sorts of acid testing and everything else. They call it bleach pit, but it's essentially acid that will destroy everything, within 10 miles. I mean, what she did was unbelievable. Nothing happens to her. Nothing happens to Bill Clinton. He took it out in his socks. It was the famous socks case, which he actually ended up winning. So when I look at this, Greg, I say there's got to be something. It was very interesting when they were going after me viciously, raiding my house, everything else, because Jack Smith is an animal. He's a total animal. He's deranged. He really is. He's a deranged person. The other gentleman who went after Biden, It was a weird kind of a conclusion because he said, he's competent to be president, but he's not competent to stand trial. That's sort of a strange thing. I don't think people are going to buy that very much because certainly it'll be used during the campaign.
I've never heard Donald Trump asked a question like that. It was really interesting to see his response. Trump says he does have the protection of a higher power, a stronger force. It's amazing. The old adage that hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and the cycle continues forever and ever. Donald Trump is a strong man. He's going through hard times, and it's going to only make Donald Trump stronger. It's really spectacular. It's really special, ladies and gentlemen, what we're witnessing right now. I do believe that there's spiritual energy in this country, and I believe we're in the midst of a spiritual awakening. Donald Trump was also asked in this interview how he deals with grief and loss, and it's like very wholesome, actually, this answer, and really important, quite frankly, in a explanation of who Trump is. Have a listen.
Very curious. You're a tough person, obviously, but you have experienced loss like anybody else.
Yeah.
You lost your brother over the past couple of years, your sister, your late wife, Ivana. How do you grieve? Because you were like right back at work. You had to be. And it's hard to conceive somebody like you shedding tears. And I'm curious, did it happen then? Has it happened?
So I don't like to do it. When you lose somebody, it's very tough. I lost my mother-in-law very recently. She was a great woman. She was very beautiful woman inside and out, and she died. And I will tell you, it's a tough thing. I don't like to show that. I don't like to see it.
But you have.
A lot of people, sure you do. I mean, you do when you lose somebody that you really love. My sister, my brother, when you lose your parents. It's a very tough thing, and I find nothing wrong with it. But I don't like to do it in public. Now I have to tell you something. Sometimes I don't think you can really help it, and that's okay too. I think that's okay too. But grieving is grieving. When you lose somebody that's very close, in many ways, if you don't grieve, perhaps you're not such a good person.
So I always am interested in the times when you get to real insight into who Donald Trump is and what he's thinking. And one of the major criticisms that I have personally is that the Trump team wasn't ready to win in 2016. Now, who could have guessed, right? Gotta be honest, I always thought they were going to win. It's why I was at Donald Trump's victory party in Manhattan. It's like one of 3 reporters that were actually there. But I always thought Donald Trump was going to win. I thought he was going to win, but they weren't prepared, and they didn't have staff, and they had really bad staff in the White House. I think this is a critique that obviously they've been very public about, and they've had people that weren't loyal to the president and that weren't loyal to the vision of America, and they had leaders in Congress that were also disloyal to Trump's vision for America and the America First movement. And that spelt real disaster for the nation, to be quite honest with you. We could have built the wall, could have changed the immigration systems, could have prevented so much of the evil that is happening right now in this country that may never be undone. And so how is Trump going to fix that personnel issue? Ladies and gentlemen, he was asked by Greg Kelly, one like this.
I wasn't in the Washington establishment. It's an establishment. I was a New York person, and I didn't come here much. I was here, they say, the press says 17 times. I didn't know people like normally you would. And I put great people in, but I also put people that I made a mistake with. I made a mistake with some people I put in. Obviously, it wasn't a grave mistake because we had no wars. I got out of wars. I rebuilt the military. We defeated ISIS. All the different things we did, lowest taxes ever. We got the biggest tax cuts ever or the biggest regulation cuts ever. But nevertheless, I now know people. I believe Washington probably at the upper levels better than anybody. And I think I'm going to have some unbelievable people. And I have unbelievable people that want to be with us. I have, as per the first part of the interview, tremendous people, some of the most talented people. They want to come into this administration. So we'll see what happens.
I got to say, the president is suddenly in charge of hundreds of thousands of employees, right, in the executive branch. And so it is an overwhelming task. But it's great to see the Trump campaign rolling, being asked these questions about faith and about core values. And also moving into a point of maturity where I think it's really, really something special is happening. Donald Trump has pitched a perfect campaign. I mean, the 2024 campaign, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm missing something, but it seems like it's been a perfect campaign. Is the hand of God on Donald Trump? I mean, there's a lot of scriptures about leaders and people that God chooses to be leaders in our time. And there's a lot of scriptures about God caring about about the nations that rise, right? Ben Franklin, when asked to give a prayer at the Constitutional Convention, said, if a sparrow can't fall from the sky without his notice, God's notice, then how can a nation rise without his aid? And so continue to pray, ladies and gentlemen, for God's providence in this country. We need it. Ladies and gentlemen, we need protection, strength, and a vision to save this place. Let's go save it together. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. See ya.